because this is what they need to know. What they're going to do in our formative assessment is basically they're given sentences or direct quotes from their text that they're reading, and they're going to need to properly punctuate these direct quotes from the reading. And so that is their assessment. So they're given that
Gotcha.
six questions, and they have to properly punctuate it. Determine where those commas go, determine where those, quotation marks go.
So are they rewriting the sentence on those lines and then
Yes,
adding the, okay,
yes, and then adding the correct punctuation. Absolutely.
gotcha.
So let's take a look at the cub. Look, I say we struggled, Sarah, with this, but let's take it. So I remember in our last live stream we talked about how we started at the bottom at the be able to.
Mhm.
But I'll start at the bottom just for purposes of this is our thought process behind it, right? So students will be able to determine where to insert. And see, I put right because, and so I
The
want
L.
to start here. Is that's the L. But if I would have taken out right and just put insert, that's still the L because when you're inserting, you're writing, right? Quotation. So,
Exactly.
right. So that's why I put that in parentheses. So let me start over. To be able to determine where to insert quotation marks and commas in sentences containing direct quotes or dialogue using sentences on activity page 6.2. So I wanted to talk about this first because we just talked about the assessment on the last page, right? And you see how that assessment ties in right here to my be able to. And so that's the student product that they're going to turn in. So I wanted to touch on that be able to first just to show the connection between that assessment and what the student is expected to do at the end of the lesson.
Hmm.
So I'll jump back up to the know. So what are they supposed to know? First, they would need to know what the proper use and function of a quotation mark. What is the proper use and function of a quotation mark? Right? They need to know that.
Yep.
So your explicit teaching is going to come in as know and understand, right? So they have to understand that there are different ways quotation marks are used in writing, such as in dialogue and when taking quotes directly from a text. So they have to know the two different ways in which you would use quotation marks.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I'm glad that you went from the be able to the no, because that's kind of when I was thinking through this one, that's how I did it as well. Like I looked at this is what they have to be able to do. Okay, what do they need to know in order to be able to
To do
do
it.
that?
Absolutely.
And then what do they have to understand about that in
Yeah.
order to be? So it's like a puzzle almost,
Yeah.
kind of
And
connecting
it
those
should
dots.
flow, right? Like you just said, it should flow. This is what they should do. Okay, so in order to do that, they need to know something and why
Yep.
they need to know it. Yeah, I like that.
Yep. And you see the same wording, the same language in each of the
Yeah,
components. So it's all
yeah,
aligned.
yeah.
All
All
right.
right. So
Looking
check
good.
again. Yes.
All right. Lesson 7, Myths and Volcanoes. Okay, so in lesson 7, they're taking a break from informational text and they're actually going to be reading a myth, three different myths about how volcanoes were formed, or they kind of explain volcanoes. Okay, so let me read the primary focus. The primary focus is students will describe how myths were used in early civilizations to explain unusual events in nature, such as volcanic activity. Okay, so the formative assessment is actually a take-home page. They're reading those myths, and then on this chart over here, they are like answering different questions, comparing those myths. Let me scroll and see. So they're comparing and contrasting the similarities and the differences across the different excerpts, the creation of volcanoes, the eruptions, and the formation of a caldera. So we're looking at how the different myths attempt to explain those things.
Man, you know what? Just by you talking, us looking at the assessments, I mean, as a teacher, I'm like, man, compare and contrast,
Yep.
and I love the fact that, I mean, these are just the standards that our students are expected to know at fourth grade.
Yep.
And the fact that during an informational unit, we're throwing in a myth. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
we're throwing in myths, a myth genre along with the informational because we all know our students in fourth grade for sure maybe their first time getting
Paired
a
passaging.
paired passage. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes. And it would be a fiction and a nonfiction. Just saying. I mean, this is awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. That's why I really make sure those of you who are viewing looking at these assessments, right? We haven't even talked about the KUBs yet, but just looking at how they're assessing our students on our, on what they're supposed to be learning. I mean, I'm seeing all these standards already. So,
Yeah. I keep thinking back to trust the process. Like we don't go out of our way to make sure that we're covering, the star. But like it's there. Like if you just look at this assessment, it's there. We're doing paired passages. We're doing compare and contrast. I mean, yeah, it's already there.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at the KUB. Okay, so we have students will know what myths are. They will understand how myths help explain volcanic activity, and they will be able to describe how myths were used in early civilizations to explain unusual events in nature, such as volcanic activity using, and I meant to put that activity page in there, activity page 7.3.
Yeah, and so now, I mean, I think the be able to part is great. And if you wanted to, you could even put activity page of comparing and contrasting, right? You could have done that, right? And just, if you wanted to, not to say that if you just put activity page is wrong, but you could put what that activity page entails. You know what I mean, right? Don't you think you could do that too, right?
I was thinking that as I was talking through the formative assessment, I was thinking after the be able to compare and contrast how myths were used in early civilizations. Like instead of describe, that should be my cognitive verb. Because that's what they're doing. Yeah, they're comparing and contrasting.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's true. And then I think I would also add to the understand. You have it. It has it here. Volcanoes. Because what do myths do, right? Because at the no, we said what myths are. So I guess they're learning what myths are. Like it tells the phenomenon, right? It tells how something came to be. So I guess the no explains what I was going to say. Because I was going to say, if students know what a myth is, they should know that it explains the phenomenon. So what is our phenomenon in this? Volcanoes. So it's great. See, as you talk about it, it all is coming together. It just came together. So if you teach your students what myths are, then they're going to say, okay, so the phenomenon we're talking about are volcanoes. Man, imagine your kids saying phenomenon that we're talking about in this lesson are volcanoes. Awesome conversation.
Yeah, and now that you said that, I think that something else I might add to the understand was how volcano myths help explain volcanic activity in early civilizations. Just so they
back to how they came to be. Is that
yeah, just so they're all aligned.
Good.
But yeah, you gave me a lot to think about.
We were talking the point of our collaboration.
Yeah.
I love this.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So now, before we talk about this, these 5 lessons are like really spiral. I mean, they all spiral, but this it spirals all in the same week, right? So this is not the first time we're going to see. Well, let me read the primary focus. So for writing, students will describe what a wiki entry is and plan for writing their own wiki entry. Wow.
That's new.
That's very new. Wiki, they're going to write now, post it up on the internet. Look, they could, right? So
I was about to say, are they?
Maybe in the next lessons, because this week they're only drafting and planning and getting ready to write it. So we'll see what the other lessons have in store. So the assessments, basically it's a rubric. So students are going to eventually write an entry, surrounding volcanoes, but they're just going to really be looking at this rubric in order to help them plan for their writing. And then activity page 7.5 is a checklist, things that need to be included in that wiki. So, of course, we know what a rubric is, it's how you're graded, and then the checklist, it helps the student to draft their ideas and get their thoughts out on their paper for their wiki entry.
So in this lesson, basically the teacher is introducing how they're going to be assessed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. And so they'll obviously come back to it, and we'll see that later on in our streaming.
Ready for the KUB?
Yes, ma'am. So with that said, right, thinking about our assessment, so what should they be able to do? They should be able to demonstrate comprehension, right, of the structure and purpose of a wiki entry by planning their own volcano wiki entry using a graphic organizer. How does that sound to you?
It sounds good. I'm looking at the checklist. I'm making sure we have
Oh,
everything.
okay, yeah.
Okay, so I see cognitive verb. That's the demonstrate comprehension. The ELP, which, let me see.
Well, the ELP, so is the demonstrate comprehension. Let me see what ELP that is.
So planning is the cognitive verb.
What are they going to do? Action, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, planning their own volcano wiki entry. I mean,
yeah, I think planning is the cognitive verb.
So that's what they're doing. They have to plan it, and that's through what? Through writing. So I guess we could have put planning, but see, I was trying to see how to put writing, but it's just, don't we know it's writing if you're planning? I mean, you can plan in your head too, but but yes, planning to me would be that cognitive verb.
Yeah. Then we have the knowledge, purpose of a wiki entry, and the products. They're going to use that graphic organizer.
Yeah.
Yep, I think that looks good.
I mean, it could be up for discussion, just about what's that cognitive verb. But yeah, I think it's planning. Demonstrate comprehension. Let me show you where we could get that from. It says for reading, because see what they have to do, they have to understand that rubric, right?
Yeah.
They have to understand that rubric and that checklist in order to even make the wiki entry. And so under reading, that means you have to read, right? You have to read that entry. So under reading, we have L4K that says demonstrate English comprehension by analytical skills such as evaluating, writing information, performing critical analysis. It could also be 4I, demonstrate English comprehension by using basic reading skills. Hey, right? Basic reading skills, looking through, such as determining main ideas and supporting details, summarizing, and using graphic sources. So it could be either one of the two. So that's why I thought that could be the L. That's how. They have to understand the checklist in order to complete these.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, so you have all the components then.
Okay, awesome. So, and if this is what they're going to do, okay, so the student will know the purpose and structure of volcano wiki entries. I mean, I kind of struggle.
I had a similar note. The only thing I just put know the purpose or know what a wiki entry is, just because if you're gonna write that's hard to say. If you're gonna write a wiki entry, you have to know what it is.
Right.
And then in the understand, just elaborating a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay, so the student will understand that in order to write a wiki entry, because our guiding question says, why is a wiki entry important? Why do they need to know about this purpose and structure, right?
Yep.
So the student will understand that in order to write a wiki entry about volcanoes, it must be organized and paraphrased from the source. So I added paraphrase and stuff because in this lesson, you have to teach them through their reading, you have to take out the information using the checklist that's needed in the wiki entry and like take these direct quotes. You see how it's all coming back to the writing is all spiraling, but taking these direct quotes and putting it into your own words. And so
that's what they learned in that grammar lesson.
Yes,
quotations.
Right. But then now you're taking these quotes, but you have to put these quotes now and paraphrase them into your own words in your wiki entry. So I just see how it's all connecting.
Yeah, my only thought is because paraphrase is in the understand, maybe there's somewhere in the be able to that it should go as well.
Absolutely. So where would we put that?
Let's see, be able to demonstrate comprehension of the structure and purpose of a wiki entry by planning their own volcano wiki entry.
By using information, I don't know.
Using paraphrased notes on a graphic organizer.
And I think I did write that on another one, but yes, I agree with you. Because if paraphrase is there, and it also should be at the top too, right?
In the note?
Aligned. I don't know. I mean, that's what I was thinking. Because we always say they need to be aligned. See, this is why we would love to have other people join us. Type it in the chat.
Thoughts, please.
Comment. Yes.
Yeah, that's a dilemma because I feel like, can you have two different concepts in the note, or do you just have one? Like it's either they know what a wiki entry is or they know what paraphrasing is, or can you say they know what a wiki entry is and what paraphrasing is?
So that's two learning goals, right? I mean, which
Yeah.
that's okay. Because in reading, our things are dually, it's all standards, not all, but some and most are dually coded. Like you're not only inferring, you're also probably doing other things while you're inferring, figuring out the main idea
Yeah.
why you're inferring. So things are dual. So it could be two. So I'm
Yeah.
just looking at my notes a little bit more. You're right. Is it just the wiki? Or is it the paraphrasing part? So maybe from looking at my notes after internalizing, right? This is just what is the purpose of a wiki and the structure. So you're starting them off because later on, I think lesson 8, they're going to start paraphrasing. So
Okay.
yeah, we should take out that paraphrase part
I would
in the
love to get other thoughts to know what some other
I
people
know,
think.
right? That would be very helpful.
It would, because I think we're having a great discussion, but I would just love to get some more input.
Insight, yeah, for sure. Maybe somebody's out there and they're typing it in right now as we speak.
I know. All right. So while they're typing, I'm going to go ahead and click
Yeah,
to
we can
lesson
go
8.
on for sure.
Okay. So lesson 8 is 3 types of rocks and the rock cycle. Okay, so for reading, students will identify rocks as solids made of minerals, describe the formation characteristics of 3 types, explain how the rock cycle causes long-term changes. Okay, and so on the activity page, they're basically answering different questions about the rock cycle and types of rocks, and they have a page number where they're citing text evidence. So they have to use text evidence in their answers. They also answer multiple choice questions, same thing. They have to identify where in the text they found their answer, and then they're going to answer some questions using vocabulary from the chapter. Okay. So the KUB is students will know the rock cycle. They will understand that changes in rocks over time can be explained by the rock cycle, and they will be able to articulate an answer to the question, how can changes in rocks over time be explained by the rock cycle, using a class discussion.
Yeah,
And
love
I
it.
feel like now I should change that using activity page. Uh, activity page 8.2.
And so, what are they doing on 8.2 again?
They are answering questions based on the text and
Okay.
citing the source for each response.
Okay. So using text evidence. Oh no. Yeah, right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean you could, but I like the class discussion too because aren't they answering questions aloud as well?
They could.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Um,
figure out where I got class
class
discussion from.
discussion. Yeah.
When I
I
look
like how you use articulate because what is that your help?
the orally sharing,
Yeah.
or is that orally share? I put articulate.
Yeah, I like that. Um, can students recall what the rock cycle? Will they recall the cycle of a rock? Yes. So is that your no seem accurate? Yes. Um, that's the knowledge they're gaining. So why do they need to know about this rock cycle? Because they need to know that it changes over time, right? And that all goes back to the whole point of the lesson, right? The unit. The whole unit is how Earth changes, those processes. So one process would be the rock cycle, right?
Yep.
Of how the Earth changes. So rocks help in that process. So yeah.
I think I found where I got discussion from.
Yeah, where
So
they say
on page 201, the last bullet has have students respond to questions 7 through 15 on activity page 8.2. You may wish to have students compare their answers with a partner after they have completed the assignment and resolve any disagreements together. So they're discussing there, and then after that, they come back together to wrap up the lesson and discuss the big chapter. The big question of the chapter. So, and to be able to, there's the big question, and because they're discussing it as a class, I put using the class discussion.
yeah.
Okay,
Awesome.
so I think it depends on which one you want to be your grade. Do you want their ability to answer that question to be your formative assessment? Then
Mm-hmm.
this would be your be able to. But if you want to use that page, activity page 8.2, then you could also say be able to use text evidence
Mm-hmm.
to answer questions about the rock cycle.
Well, so when you said that, Sarah, in my opinion, just thinking about primary focus. So this lesson to me is like, okay, we're talking about the rock cycle. They're understanding like how it changes and stuff. So how am I going to know that my students know it? Well, they need to articulate these answers, right? So to me, I mean, I think this would be my formative assessment. I mean, what would be the other? Oh, so you're saying either you want the questions to be your formative assessment or
that activity page.
the activity page. The questions that they do together, you're saying?
Right. When they come back together for the lesson wrap up and they discuss the big question, which is what's in quotation marks. So either that discussion, or you could also use the activity page. And that's going to determine you'll be able to, whichever one you decide to use.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Check, right. check.
Right, writing.
Okay, so lesson 8 for writing.
Oh,
we're on 7. No, we're on 8.
You're right, we're on 8.
Okay.
Right.
So lesson 8 for writing, students will use a graphic organizer to take notes by paraphrasing text and will also draft a wiki entry. So that kind of answers our question, right, from last time. So lesson 7, that's why I thought we were still on 7, because I was looking back through my notes, right?
Looks the same, yeah.
Yeah. And so lesson 7, you're really familiarizing your kiddos with the checklist and the rubric. And then there's an explicit modeling that the teacher does in lesson 7 where she's showing how she's taking notes. Students are only watching, so they don't start yet until now. The teacher the teacher modeling is at the end of the lesson. So then on day 8, lesson 8, now it's the students' turn, to use a graphic organizer to take notes. Because remember, the teacher modeled. Of course, that was yesterday the teacher modeled. Right. So of course you would model it again, at least one of them with your kids today. So they'll take notes by paraphrasing a text, and they will also draft a wiki. So on this first sheet, this is where they are taking their notes. And this is what the teacher modeled yesterday. And so, a part of what the teacher modeled yesterday. Students are going to continue completing this sheet today, or on lesson 8. Then after they take their notes through paraphrasing, because they're going to be taught that paraphrasing is using their own words, and we're not plagiarizing, and that's how you paraphrase, you use your own words. So that means you have to take good notes. Mm-hmm. After they take their notes, then they're going to draft their wiki entry, because also in previous lessons, you already know the format of the wiki. We talked about the format of the wiki. And so now today, we're going to draft it based on our notes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the KUB. Okay, so the students will know how to paraphrase information from the text about volcanoes. Okay. Students will understand that note-taking helps writers paraphrase the information learned about volcanoes. And then finally, the student will be able to demonstrate understanding, comprehension about volcanoes by selecting key details from the text to paraphrase into their wiki entry draft using a graphic organizer. I'm sorry, I think this one is so good. But you can tell me it's not. You can say it's not. But I think it is. So let's have a conversation about it, right?
Okay. Yeah, the first thing I was thinking was, I know, I believe it was in lesson 7 we had talked about having the paraphrase in the know, having 2 different concepts in the know. So I'm glad to see paraphrase here, because now I think we don't have to worry about it in lesson 7. We can just stick with it.
I was awake. Not just I was really up on this one now.
I think it looks good. Know to paraphrase information from the text about volcanoes. I might put know what paraphrasing is
at the top.
Okay. It's because how to do it.
That should not be at the know.
Yeah.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
So
what would you say?
Know what it means to paraphrase, or they will know what paraphrasing is.
Okay.
Understand that note-taking helps writers paraphrase the information learned about volcanoes. Okay, so that's good.
Right, because when you are paraphrasing, that's what you're doing.
Yeah, this is why do you need to know what paraphrasing is? So you know that note-taking helps writers paraphrase. Mm-hmm. Be able to demonstrate comprehension about volcanoes by selecting details from the text to paraphrase into their wiki entry draft using graphic organizer. Yes. Yes. I think the only thing I changed when I wrote my be able to is I made drafts the cognitive verb, I think.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Or was draft the help?
Well,
I feel
see,
like it could be either one. Like
it can be because there is a drafting here. Look, let me find it. Look, I'm good for that. Let me find the L
you're the
now.
elk master.
Let's see. So that would be under writing. I mean, I can't find it now. But yeah, it could be. I mean, I don't see it right now.
Yeah, I
It's
think that's the
here.
only thing I changed. This is
Okay,
lesson
good.
8.
Yes.
Okay.
But even saying note taking is note taking at the bottom. No, but see, note taking is a part of. I mean, it's in one of these ELPs, but I don't see draft. But drafting is writing.
Uh-huh. Is draft a cognitive verb? I
That's
felt like a list.
it. May
Like,
now that you say that, draft could be the cognitive verb, and so I could have said the student will be able to draft a wiki entry. I don't know. Will be able to select key details to draft a wiki entry, which demonstrates understanding about volcanoes using a graphic organizer. Because I just want to, I like the fact that it says volcano, 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 and it's talking
uh-huh.
about paraphrasing in all of them too.
That
So
alignment.
yes. So I would put that draft first. Students will be able to draft. I think that's the verb right there.
I just said that, and then that's not even what I had on my sticky note. Look, I have be able to capture notes for and draft a wiki entry by paraphrasing text using a graphic organizer.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're saying is the same. You
Mhm.
know, yeah. Either way, I think
We got
yeah,
the same thing,
yeah.
you know.
But I do like how I should have draft should have been up above. Be able to draft first, the cognitive verb. The ELP is a demonstrate understanding because in order to take notes, you got to understand what you're reading. So that's the reading
Exactly.
part. That's the
Especially the
reading,
paraphrase. You can't paraphrase
right?
something if you don't understand what it,
You're gonna be
yeah,
plagiarizing if you don't.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know
just
what I'm saying?
because you don't know what it says, like you don't comprehend. So you have to
Right.
just copy verbatim.
Yeah.
All right, but I think we're solid. We're
Yeah.
solid on this. Good.
Jay.
All right, on to lesson 9. Change my banner. All right, close reading, rocks and the rock cycle. So basically, close reading always means that they're rereading a chapter that they have read before. Okay, so students will describe what rocks are, explain the formation and characteristics of the 3 classes of rocks, and explain the features and importance of the rock cycle. So we are back to using our evidence collectors chart again. They have that statement, that's a cause. They're trying to find the picture that is the effect, and then writing that text evidence in the last column to solve that riddle.
Yeah. I'm thinking, would you? I mean, these pictures could be posted up in your room. You know, you could make this chart a poster in your room. You know,
Yeah,
and as the we do, at least put the photo in the box for them, and then they can be finding this evidence. You know, because that's what our kids struggle with, finding the evidence to support that.
yep.
Um, so I don't know, just some ideas.
I think that's a great scaffold.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna lie. I tried to do when I first started reading this unit. I tried to do that evidence collectors chart. I tried to do the whole thing like the first day.
Oh,
Then I realized, oh, this is supposed to be over the course of the unit. Like I
yeah,
don't know enough.
not yet.
Yes, I'm like, how do students do all this today? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, they're not supposed to. Okay, so the be able to is students will know the rock cycle. They will understand that changes in rocks over time can be explained by the rock cycle and be able to use text evidence to explain how different types of rocks are created, destroyed, and recreated, and how these types of rocks are related in that cycle using the evidence collector's chart, which I forgot to type.
No, that's fine. Um, so I see you're in the be able. So let me start at the no. The only difference I had, which is fine, right? Because no two people are the same, right? I
Mhm.
just put process will know the rock cycle process. I
Eh,
mean that's all. I
And I
mean
think
because
they're the same. Like that's the same thing, right?
it is.
Mhm.
Um, do you think that at your be able to you said that they're created, destroyed? Well, no. That is the process.
Uh-huh.
Right? So you don't have to put that up above, because that's why I said I put process here at the top, because I knew that process is going to be right here in the be able to part.
Oh, I see.
And you see what I'm just trying to make it aligned
That same
and have,
language. Yeah.
right. Yeah. So that's all. That's my thinking whenever we're using the tool, because it should all be using the same language for sure.
The only thing,
But other than that, oh yeah, go ahead.
I'm just making sure I have my cognitive verb. It's
Yes.
explain, right? Explain is the cognitive verb.
Well, it's not use text evidence.
Is it use text evidence? Is that a cognitive verb? Use
No,
text
it's just a
evidence.
verb. That's just a verb. Use text evidence.
It's because I have a list that like I refer to make sure that I
Uh-huh.
have a cognitive. I just don't know afterwards. I don't remember which one it is.
Like demonstrate, analyze, things like that.
Yeah,
This with that on there.
I think it's explain.
Exercise. Where's explain?
Use text evidence to
Oh, to
explain
explain. Yeah.
because explaining is what they're doing. Um, it's use text evidence and help.
Mm-mm.
It's not. So I need a
No.
help.
Well. So yeah. So how are they listening, speaking, reading, or writing? The English language. Think about the English language. To
Yeah,
me, text evidence is not. So what could we put?
they are writing because they're going to
They
write
are.
the text evidence on that. So to write text evidence
No, I would start with your same verb there, and then the
to
students will be
explain.
able to. Well, let me think. The students will be able to. Yeah, you can do write text evidence to explain. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay,
So
and
just
then
add in
everything else the
write.
same.
And we have our product, so we're good.
Yep, using the evidence collectors chart.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we
All
talked
right.
about having our product.
Great. All right, let's go to writing.
Okay. So for lesson 9, it's grammar, and again, in lesson 9, this is the writing. It's not writing. It's grammar, morphology, and spelling. So it's really like that language component, right?
Mhm.
And so the primary focus says students will write dialogue. Uh-oh, have we heard that already before? With dialogue, quotation marks that demonstrate the correct
Yeah.
use of commas and quotation marks. And
Spiral the
so,
back.
yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so here again, they have their sentences in which they need to correct. And then that would be activity page 9.2, where students punctuate the sentences. And the longer excerpts you see here, they take excerpts from the text that they were reading as well. And it contains dialogue, and it contains, and it has those direct quotes that we want those students to pull out and put on those lines.
Oh.
So they have to, basically, they're still punctuating. That's what they're doing.
Mhm.
And then identifying the dialogue. So the first one they're punctuating, then over here they're pulling out these direct quotes and the dialogue.
Okay, so here they're punctuating like on this side.
Yes, and then here is these are little excerpts from the text, and then it says they are to pull out or write right on the lines the direct quotes and the dialogue. So they have to be able to determine, is this quotes dialogue within the text.
Oh, that's a higher cognitive level there.
So if you notice, yeah, this does get a little bit more higher in rigor, right?
Mhm.
Because of what they have to do, as opposed to what was that 2 days, lesson 6,
Yeah.
where they were just punctuating it, and they gave them the sentence, they just punctuate. Now, where is it at? Because if you notice in their paraphrasing, they also have to notice that through paraphrasing, you're not going to be writing direct quotes. You need to make sure you're paraphrasing in its own words, so you can really tie them in all together.
Yeah, everything goes together.
So let's look at the club.
All right.
Okay. The students will know the function and the use of quotation marks. I said function because it's like you need to know that it could be a direct quote. Like that's that higher level I was thinking about too. They have to know that it could be direct quotes, and it could just be when people are talking. You know what I'm saying? So they will understand different ways quotation marks are used in writing, such as in dialogue and direct quotes in text. So there are different ways. It's not just one way. We can talk about it. And then they will be able to write dialogue that demonstrates the correct use of commas and quotation marks using direct direct quotes from the text. I don't know. I was iffy about this one because it was so much. It was packed full of information. So I was like, man, what's the primary focus here? What are they supposed to be doing? So I struggled with this, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I I tried to write a cover for this one too, and I had the same struggle. I think the cool thing is our be able to is like exactly the same. Like
Dang!
my I think the only difference, like, it's the exact same words. The only difference is I have using activity page 9.2 at the end.
Okay. And I didn't. Did I put a product? No. Okay. Using activity page. Yeah, see? Add it in there then.
Right, but the rest is like verbatim, word for word, the same. Um,
That's cool. I think that's pretty neat.
I, my no, I had they would know what dialogue is.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, just because I don't think you're gonna know how to use quotation marks to to how to use quotation marks when writing dialogue if you don't know what dialogue is.
Okay. Gotcha.
And then understand the correct use of commas and quotation marks for writing dialogue was my understand.
Yeah. So, and maybe I'm going to go back to the no when you said you use dialogue. So maybe when I said no, the function and uses, to me, that was saying you use quotation marks in dialogue, but they have to know what dialogue is first. So yeah, I totally agree. And would you say your understand was?
Understand the correct use of commas and quotation marks for writing dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah. So adding in comma and dialogues there. Okay. And it's really about that comma because within the quotation marks you got to know where that comma falls. So yes, some revising on this one would be needed.
I'm trying to remember if it was this lesson or if it was another one where like I really struggled because it talked about two uses for quotation marks, I think.
I think it's this one because it's talking about you use it with when someone's speaking, and then if it's a direct quote from the text. And so that's why I understand I put dialogue. That's when someone's talking because in the lesson it talks about when people are talking, and they even reference like as in fiction. They reference that. Let me see where it is. What page? And this.
I know there was one lesson where it talked about like splits, quotes, or something like that.
It's this one.
That confused me. So
yeah, and so maybe that's why this one needs some revision. I'm trying to find it. But yes, I believe it's lesson 9 for sure.
Okay.
But I can't find it for whatever reason.
Yeah, that really made me struggle with writing the cup, especially writing the understand part.
Mm-hmm. So if you look on page 224
Mm-hmm.
and 223 at the bottom, and it just starts, you give them 3 examples. One is a direct quote, and then one is like the dialogue within a text.
Mm-hmm.
You see those sentences after that second bullet?
Yeah.
I wonder, and so one is a direct quote, and then those
first
two
one.
At the bottom, the two are the dialogue. So I mean, really, they need to be able to determine the difference between the two for sure, right?
So they know the difference in how to use the quotation marks.
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I think you're right then, because it's not just what dialogue is, but it is the function and uses of quotation marks, like the different ways that you use them.
Okay. Well, we'll see how we have to go back, and
Yeah.
so that's good. So we came to an understanding. Okay. Cool.
All right, we good to go for 9. Right, and finally, lesson 10. They're learning about weathering and erosion, part 1. You see my question mark face? I struggled.
I did. Okay, that's good though.
I struggled to find a formative assessment for this lesson. I did.
It's a productive struggle.
Yeah, because I always look towards the end of the lesson to see like what the expectation is, what they're supposed to do. And all I could see was they're using the big question again to discuss the chapter. And they have activity page 10.3, but it's a take-home page. So I don't, if it's
what about the flow chart?
Yeah, if it's a take-home page, is it still a formative assessment? Like, are you going to know that day
Yeah.
if they met the objective or not. So that was my struggle.
So it says here the students create a flow chart to describe the process of chemical weathering.
What page you on?
Well, it's just I mean, I didn't see the flow chart in there, but I'm on the very first page of lesson 10, and it says
Oh, I see what you're saying.
flow chart.
I didn't see it either.
Okay, so they're creating a flow chart. So that's what I'm saying. So this is nice. So this is what I thought that they were doing. You're giving them a piece of construction paper, a piece of sticky note paper, and in groups or individually, COVID-19.
Right.
You're gonna after we read our text, you should be able to have the flow chart of what happens during this weathering, like science. Right? That's what we're teaching, basically.
Yeah.
So it's just they're gonna draw out, or it says create. So also I'm saying giving them a piece of construction paper, and they are going to draw the images and have like the caption, like what each process entails after they're reading.
Chauncey, where in the where
Oh, does it say,
where in the lesson?
where in the lesson does it say that? Great idea, but
Because that's why I didn't see it. Like I didn't look at the formative assessment part. Like I just looked, and that's on me.
So they're answering questions.
Mm-hmm.
And, And then it says at the end of the chapter, like you said, that relates to the big question, that page 10.3, where they're comparing again. How do weathering and I guess comparing, because you're asking how does weathering and erosion reshape Earth's surface, and that all goes back to the big question. So after reading, that's page 10.3. Isn't that what you have up there? Yeah.
Yeah, but on there, they're like just using vocabulary words to. Let's see. The following words were used in chapter 7. For each word, pick an activity and complete the chart below. So they're picking a vocabulary word and then they pick one of the activities, like write a definition in your own words. So to me, that doesn't really have anything to do with like the primary. It's just like a vocabulary activity. Like you're not going to know if they can answer the question, how do weathering and erosion continually reshape Earth's surface? Like they have nothing to do with each other.
Right.
Hence the question mark face.
And I don't see where it says the flow chart. I didn't see that either. Yeah, but I think that would be a great way to assess. Just saying, they have the flow chart there, so let's have some fun and get out some construction paper and crayons and markers and have them explain this process of erosion and weathering.
I agree, yeah.
And explain the steps. You'll really know then, right, based off your reading, and that allows them to go back in the text and make sure, okay, what's first? Let's recap what's second. So, I don't see it here. Maybe because we're live.
I'm skipping.
Focusing enough to look at it, but I didn't see it initially either.
Yeah, I don't see it anywhere in the actual lesson, but I do like if you do the flow chart, it kind of gives you most to be able to, like they will be able to create a flow chart to describe the process of chemical weathering, or they will be able to describe the process of chemical weathering by creating a flow chart. All right, let's see what I gave. It's a mess. Warning.
Well, first, because we didn't know the formative assessment.
Yeah,
but I like to know. The no is on point, right?
Yeah, that was basic. Like you could tell, they need to know what weathering and erosion are. And then from there, understand how weathering and erosion continually reshape Earth's surface.
Yeah, why? Why do they need to know about weathering and erosion? Because it reshapes Earth's surface. Yeah.
And then be able to communicate how weathering and erosion continually reshape Earth's surface using a discussion board, because I didn't know what the formative assessment was.
Right. Now flow chart.
Yeah, using that flow chart. Yeah, I like that one a lot better.
Yeah.
Or you could do both. I don't know. You could do a discussion, but
Yeah.
it's up to the teacher.
When you're saying discussion board, what do you mean? Like just out loud, like
Just in
grandparents?
Schoology, you know how you
Oh,
can do
okay,
those
cool.
discussion posts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so posting that big question and having them write a response or record a response
Mhm.
orally.
Flip grid.
Yeah, Flipgrid. Yeah. Hey, but now I like the flow chart. I would do that instead.
Yeah, and that'll engage them, right? Because
Mhm.
they can even color it. Not to say
Yeah.
that's important, but gives them some time to. Hey, and there goes some student work you can put up in your classroom. Knowledge
Yeah.
base anchors.
Exactly.
There we go. So for the writing assessment, so we're spiraling back again. This should look familiar. Remember, they've already gone through the process. They found out what a wiki was. They planned. They drafted. They planned. Then they draft, and now they're going to. Students will revise and edit their writing using a writing rubric and editing checklist as guides. And so the first sheet we have here is like that structure, of a wiki entry, and then how they're going to be assessed. You have, well, and then the checklist over in the middle is your, what the look fors, right? What should this wiki entry include? And finally, you also have your rubric, how you're going to be assessed on your wiki entry. And so
Mhm.
basically today they're, like it says, they're going to be revising and editing. So let's see what these KUBs say.
All right.
Based off that, right? And we know this is what they're being assessed. What do our KUBs say? The students will know what it means to revise and edit their writing. Students will understand. See, I don't know. See, I'm already saying I don't know. Students will understand that rubrics and checklists are helpful tips for writers to evaluate their wiki entry drafts, which I think that's okay. Just as no, we may need to go back and talk about. And then finally, students will be able to revise and edit their Volcano wiki entry using a wiki entry editing checklist and wiki entry rubric.
I
So
think you
let's
did a
talk.
lot better than I didn't. You should see my sticky note where I tried to write this cup. Like I got be able to on it, and I could not go any further.
And so this is a cognitive verb, right? Be able to revise and edit.
Yes,
Yeah.
revise and edit definitely cognitive verbs.
But what's the
Um,
help? It's not.
yeah,
Yeah, I just noticed that right
something with
now.
writing, some because they're going to be doing writing. We had the product for sure using the checklist and the rubric.
Okay, look, listen here. It says under writing help, it says 5D. Edit writing for standard grammar and usage. Would that go?
So my question was, can we double dip? Can the cognitive verb also be the
No.
ilk? Like,
I don't know. Miss Trevino, Miss Kaya, are y'all out there? Can y'all help us with that? Just say, like, that's a good question. Can you double dip? Because revise can be our cognitive verb and edit is our help. But that's a great question. Can you double dip? If
yeah,
so, we'll say yes.
then we got
You know,
both.
until we get a definite answer, that's something I am going to jot down. Can you double dip? But yeah, we got both. So I don't know. Let's talk about, what do you think?
I think
What
you
is,
have
what is that? No. Well, let's
the
start to be able to.
okay. I think the be able to is good. Just and still have that question in mind of can we double dip?
Okay.
Because I'll have that same question for other be able tos that we've created as well. But I think you have the knowledge, the volcano wiki entry.
Now, what if
Um,
I were to put volcano wiki entry and I just put wiki entry? Would that be okay?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's still the knowledge they gain how to make this, create this wiki entry. Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
And you have the products.
Okay.
For the no, what it means to revise and edit their writing.
Oh no.
What it
What are they
means.
supposed to know?
Maybe the purpose of revising and editing
Okay.
their writing. Like, well, I don't care if I ask a kid, what is the purpose of revising and editing?
To make your paper better, improve. I mean, I don't know, right?
I'm just trying to imagine if they would be able to give like a basic recall answer to,
They should, in my opinion, right?
or know what revising and editing are, if they
I
know
like
the
the
difference.
purpose. Um, well, I mean, because unless it doesn't say what's the difference, it just, I mean, I like what you said before. We'll know the purpose of revising and editing their writing.
Yeah.
So if we say that if students should be able to tell you, well, I revise my writing to, make it better, include, more ideas, elaborate, things like that to make it improve it. And they should be able to say when I edit it, and they, if I ask them what's the purpose, well, for mistakes. I think a fourth grader should know that, be able to recall that.
I think as adults, sometimes we don't know the difference between revise and edit. You know what I mean? Like I've seen, and I've also made the mistake of trying to do both on the same day, and they're not the same thing.
Yeah,
Like
it's not.
revising, you're going back with new eyes, and that's where
Yes.
you're adding and taking away those sentences. Like you're improving your word choice, and the editing is totally different. That's like punctuation, and
Right.
so if would they be able to articulate, the reason that you do each, why you revise and why you edit, or
And
would
so
they
that
just say,
I
you
don't know.
know,
And so that's why the understand was there. So I don't know, should that understand be that? I said that they understand that rubrics and checklists are, well, I don't know, helpful tips for writers to evaluate their wiki entry, because that's what you're doing when you're revising and editing. You're evaluating, but should that evaluate part be have to be able to
be
see
able to?
evaluate? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I think revise and edit are good for the be able to, because those are definitely they're cognitive verbs. I think you have to evaluate your writing in order to revise and edit, because you have to be able to go back, and decide, like, I think this part could be better, or I think I need to take this out. This is a hard one.
we could say students will be able to understand that in order to improve their writing, I don't know. Because you need to know that I'm improving my writing. That's why I need to know how to revise and edit. So I
They
have to
should,
understand that,
they
right?
can understand that revising and editing are an important way to improve their writing, or an important part of the writing process.
I mean, we could dig deep like that. That's true. I mean, but that's what it is.
Why do you need to know what revising and editing are? Because
Because good writers go through the process of improving their papers.
mhm,
I mean, that's the deep understanding, right?
yeah, that revising and editing are an important part of the writing process, because
Okay,
you don't just write a draft and like publish it.
I'm
Like
done. I'm done.
yeah, you have to go back and revise. You have to look at it with new eyes and see what could
Right.
be better or what you could take out, and you have to edit. You have to make
So
sure that your punctuation, capitalization, all that is on point.
okay, so what is gonna the new understand now?
I would say understand that revising and editing are an important part of the writing process,
Yeah,
because that's why they need to know what revising and editing are.
yeah.
Yep.
Nothing about rubrics and checklist. No, we don't have to,
Right,
because
because
those
that's
are
in
our
the be
products.
able to. Yeah, those are the
Right.
products.
And revising and editing's at the top. The no, it'll be in the understand, and it will be also in the be able to. Love it. Yep, that's how we can fix it. Okay.
All
Yeah.
right.
All right.
We did it.
Yay!
We did.
Yay! And it is what about a little bit over an hour, right?
Uh, a little. I think we got stuck on a couple of lessons.
Yeah.
What slowed us down, but I think
Okay.
we're getting better.
That's the whole point of this, to
Yeah.
have this discourse. So I enjoyed.
All right, so I'm going to wrap us up. Thank you for joining us today. As we mentioned earlier, the reason we're doing this is because we want you to feel confident when you're writing your cubs, or if you're a skills or administrator checking for effectiveness. We hope that you feel your time with us was well spent. If you have a question or a concern that we didn't address, ideas on how we can improve future CKLA chats, topics you'd like us to address, or any feedback about those cubs that we wrote, we would really love your input. So please drop them in the chat. You can also email or tweet us at hashtag CKLA chats, and visit the Go Team 3 website, where we're going to upload this presentation. So with that being said, enjoy your 3-day weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.